Welcome to Larry's Library, and welcome to my review and sort of comparison video of the novel Salem's Lot to the movie Salem's Lot. Now, I am going to be talking about the 1979 TV miniseries adaptation of Salem's Lot and also the original prose novel. So we'll get right into it. So, Salem's Lot, the novel, this was Stephen King's second book. It was published in 1975. One little oddity I noticed, and you may have noticed too, and I never understood why until I read the book, is the title itself is apostrophe small s Salem's Lot, and I always wonder what the heck is going on there. Well, it turns out he was originally going to publish this with the title Jerusalem's Lot because the actual little town it's set in is Jerusalem's Lot. But the publisher had some problems with that, and Stephen King at this time did not wield the power he wielded later because he didn't have this, mountain of published work to back him up. So he agreed to change it to something else because they thought Jerusalem's Lot would not work. So he changed it to Salem's Lot. And he has the characters mostly refer to it as Salem's Lot. Sometimes they'll say Jerusalem's Lot. So Salem's Lot is supposed to be a short form of Jerusalem's Lot, which I don't know about you, but that doesn't really work for me because that's not how you would say it. You wouldn't say Salem's Lot, right? I don't know. It just, it's weird to me. I don't know why someone would abbreviate Jerusalem as Salem. Maybe I'm missing something. If you know the answer to that, clue me in down in the comments, please, because that seems silly to me, and he should have just went with Salem's Lot. I mean, okay, whatever. The edition I have is this nice hardcover, I believe it's from 2004, 2005, around there. And it's called the Illustrated Edition, which is weird because this is a 600-page book with all the extras that are included. There's a short story, Jerusalem's Lot in the back, and a couple other things. There's an introduction. There's a little bit at the end by Stephen King. So there's some extras here, and it makes it come out to 600 pages. So this is supposed to be, like I said, it's called the Illustrated Edition. There's like 4 or 5 illustrations throughout the entire thing. And they're photographs. They're beautiful photographs. I'll show some B-roll of it here. Most of them don't really have a lot to do with the story. I mean, they're definitely creepy and they set a tone. But that ratio seems really wrong to me. Maybe it's because I'm primarily a comic book guy. So I'm used to a lot of illustrations. But you got 4 or 5 photographs in a 600-page work, and you're going to call that an illustrated edition? I don't see it. Previous to this, I was only familiar with Salem's Lot through that 1979 miniseries. They called it a miniseries, but it was actually just a film in 2 parts. It was actually like a part 1, part 2. So it's like 2 movies, really. But that was my only familiarity with Salem's Lot. I didn't know anything else about it other than I knew it was a Stephen King book. So I went into it fairly cold, I guess you could say, because I haven't seen Salem's Lot, the movie, in a long, long time. I loved it. For me, it was 10 out of 10. I mean, I had a couple problems with a couple spots. We'll talk about those, but not much. For me, I'll talk about what I love first. I loved the similarities with Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you haven't read that, you need to read it. I think I might have reviewed that. If I did, I'll link it up in the corner. And I noticed it right away, reading through it, because I have reread Dracula not too awful long ago, so I had it kind of fresh in my mind when I read this. And there are some definite similarities. And that is confirmed with Stephen King's remarks himself at the back of the book. He talks about that. So that was cool. That he sort of parallels the group of like 3 or so guys who go after the master vampire. In this case, Kurt Barlow, or just Barlow, not Dracula, but Barlow is the master here. And they go after him using modern technology. Modern for the time. This is set in like 1975 or so, so. And the Dracula guys use tech from their era. So yeah, same kind of thing here. It's a bunch of people, some of them completely skeptical of anything supernatural, maybe even an atheist in the pack, and they decide to hunt this guy. They have to hunt this master vampire down and destroy him. And so those plot threads are very similar, and it's cool. And in fact, as far as lore, vampire lore, Stephen King here mostly follows the Bram Stoker formula as far as how you kill a vampire, what powers they have. He actually expands on them a little bit because this master vampire, I'll try not to be too spoilery in the novel part of this sort of overview. He has some sort of, in addition to the normal vampire powers we're used to in vampire lore, he also can, like change the mist, things like that, of course. But he also has some sort of limited telekinesis, it seems like. Yeah, it's really cool. And some mind control, which Dracula exhibited that too with this, put you under a spell with his eyes and all that sort of thing. The character Mark, the boy in it, that becomes his fellow vampire killer hunter, exceptionally strong character there. Really love the Mark character. And you don't normally see that, at least I haven't noticed it anyway, child depictions that are this strong, with a character that he doesn't grapple with the situation as much as most of the adults around him. He's accepting of the premise of all this supernatural because, well, he's a supernatural geek. He's into, horror films and characters. He has models in his room and stuff. Very cool, and that's depicted in the movie too, but even more so in this book. It's really good. And he's into like Houdini and stuff like that, which helps him out in a certain scene. I won't spoil it there. One very unique thing that I absolutely adored about the book is whenever a character used a cross or a crucifix against a vampire, or holy water or whatever, it would glow. And that if you held the cross out in front of you against a vamp, and you had conviction in your heart, and you believed, in the power of God and all, the cross would glow with this holy light, this bright holy light. It was awesome. And it would even, in the book, it even would like go up the wielder's arm and empower the wielder, make him stronger too. I think both psychically and physically. So that was really cool. And he also used holy water in ways that I never thought about. They would splash it on their faces and on their arms and hands. And then when they got around vampires, their arms and hands would glow with this holy power. And their faces would glow with this sort of, I pictured a blue light in my head. I don't know if that's the way, I can't remember if he actually said it was blue, but that's the impression I got, And so I really like that. Now, the only part I really had a problem with, and here's where I go nitpicking, sorry, I have to do it. I got to be honest. There is a scene where they pick up a police officer's revolver, his handgun, that was dropped for reasons, which I won't disclose here because I don't want to give away too much plot points. But they pick up the revolver, and they have the main character, Ben Mears. Immediately, he says, I picked up policeman's service revolver, which is great because very accurate for the time. In 1975, every cop in America had a service revolver. That's what they carried. So it was long before the semi-automatic pistol became prominent, So, at least among police. So he picks up the service revolver and he immediately checks to make sure the safety is engaged. The what and the what? No. Yeah, I get it. Not everybody's a gun nut. Not everyone has any practical real-world knowledge of guns, as I do. So maybe you think that all guns have manual safeties that you need to flick on and off. Maybe that's where you're at. I don't know. But I would have thought that, he got the service revolver part right. So why did he fail so utterly with that? So it makes me think, it always enrages me when I see stuff like that. It really does. Because it just takes, if you have knowledge of that particular thing, it takes you right out of the story. You've suspended your disbelief long enough to get creeped out by this book and these characters and all this horrid stuff that's happening. And then the guy says, well, made sure the safety was, I'm like, what? So to me, it makes me think, well, did Stephen King he couldn't have taken 10 minutes to, okay, and I forget, there was no internet in 1975, so it might have taken more than 10 minutes. He might have had to go to the library and check out a book about guns, or at least flip through it there at the library, to figure out that, revolvers don't have manual safeties. They have many, many inherent internal safeties that are built in. It makes them one of the safest designs in the history of firearms, but it definitely doesn't need an external safety that you can move with your hands. So that's weird that he didn't do that. Now, of course, before anyone chews me up in the comments, of course, in the 90s, Smith & Wesson, in a boneheaded decision, did add an external manual safety to most of their revolvers, and most gun guys just hate that too because it was completely pointless. It was like there's absolutely zero need for this. This was a political maneuver, but this is not a gun channel, so I'm not going to get into all that. Sorry. So and I did look that up to see, well, what's going on there? Why would he make such a boneheaded mistake there? Because he talks about his car. There's a little bit of stuff about cars in this. He drives a European car and whatnot. There's a little bit of medical knowledge being thrown around. There's a lot of stuff about Catholicism mentioned in the text of the novel. So, all these things are things that I may not have very much knowledge in. So if he didn't research and get the tiny little bit of gun part right, how do I know he didn't research anything? He could just be making all these things up, and I wouldn't know the difference because I don't have particular knowledge in those other fields, right? So that, it's kind of a bummer when I see an author do that. Anyway, I did dig around on Reddit, and there were people mentioning this, and they said that not only does he do it there, but he does it all throughout the Dark Tower series, which I have not read, but it involves a gunslinger as the main character, so you would think you would do a modicum of research to not get that wrong when your main character is a gun guy, but apparently, yeah, he messed up some stuff there too. Some people on Reddit were being a little harsh and saying he's a lazy writer. I don't know if you can call someone that's written as much as Stephen King a lazy writer, but maybe a lazy researcher. I don't know. but that's a very minor thing, and I still, this is 10 out of 10 for me. Love this. There is a creepy, foreboding tone throughout this thing that is really gets you. It's powerful. If you love horror, and you haven't read this yet, just jump right in. Totally worth it. I loved it. Now, there will be some spoilers in the next section because I'm going to talk about the movie, the similarities and the differences between the book and the movie. Okay, so Salem's Lot, the movie. I don't think I've seen it, at least not in its entirety, since I was 11 years old in 1979. So this is like, 45, 46 years later, I obtained the Blu-ray. And it's a pretty good transfer. It scaled up nicely onto my 4K TV screen. Really, really beautiful transfer. Nice looking. I can't imagine how much better it could look even if it was a 4K release, which it's not, sadly. But I don't think it would have benefited a lot from it because it's really, really sharp as it is. Beautiful film grain in this too. Love it. This was directed by Tobe Hooper. And you may know him from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He did that. He did Life Force. He directed Poltergeist, the first one. One of my favorites he did was he directed the Dancing with Myself music video for Billy Idol. One of my all-time favorite music videos, and that's a Tobe Hooper thing also. So this aired in 1979 on CBS as a two-part miniseries. Not sure you could call it a miniseries with only 2 parts, but that's what they did. So this thing is it's 3 hours total, minus any commercials or recaps, which my DVD, or Blu-ray rather, does not have, of course, any commercials or the recap bits it removed also. This had a $4 million budget, which sounded really high to me for 1979. I tried to do a little research on that, and it seems that most TV projects were at about $3 million for a budget. So this was higher budget, but not crazy high, I guess. Sounds like a big number to me, but so there are a few changes that they made. More than a few. There's a lot of changes that were made to get this into 3 hours. Or at least to get in something they thought they could film at the time with the budget they had and the means they had at the time. CGI wasn't much of a thing in 1979, so a lot of things did not happen that would have really helped this, I think. Unfortunately, one of the things that I loved about the book, that cool, very cool, holy power, glowy thing that happened with Holy War, or when they, used the cross with conviction, that whole effect is nowhere to be seen in this film. I guess it was just too expensive, or maybe they just couldn't figure out a way to do it. I mean, today we would do this with CGI, absolutely, and it probably wouldn't cost much. But that, unfortunately, is missing from this the 1979 movie version. And man, it was something in the book. So really disappointed that that's not in there. But what are you going to do? Now, I'll tell you the change I love the most. Well, probably the most, is one of the most horrible things in the first reading the book. In the book, was the just graphic depiction of child abuse, and more than that, just baby abuse. I mean, the Randy infant was like a year and a half, maybe, if that. And the mother, this was a trailer park couple, had this kid, and they were the mother would just hit the kid in the face with her fist. I mean, it was just awful. It was hard to get through. I hated it. I'm so glad they completely excised those characters from the movie. Not even there. So I was glad not to have to suffer through that again after reading the book. Yeah, glad they got rid of that one. They did combine several characters into one sort of character, like the character of Larry Crockett, brilliantly acted here by Fred Willard. I thought that was some excellent casting on that. He actually had plot lines from a couple characters they shoved together into one. And it actually worked out pretty good. Ben Mears' girlfriend, Susan Norton, played here by Bonnie Bedelia. She did a great job. But they changed the character a lot here, and I prefer the book version to the movie version here. She's a lot less Buffy the Vampire Slayer in this than she is in the book. She's less tomboy. She's more delicate. In the book, she's, like I said, she's a little bit more of a tomboy. She was like sort of athletic, and she took an active role going after Barlow early on. And I won't say what happened to her, but trying not to give too many spoilers here and still talk about this. It's not easy. But yeah, love the actress Bonnie Bedelia. Like I said, she did great, but I'm not sure why they decided to change her as much as they did. But, one of the things that happens when you adapt one form of media to another, what are you going to do? The most notable change probably is that Barlow here, the master vampire, instead of being this suave Dracula kind of very charismatic villain, as he is in the book, much more Dracula, here he's more of a demon. The Barlow here is this very much Nosferatu-inspired makeup. In my opinion, I think this is the best vampire makeup on film ever. I'm going to go ahead and go there. I'm going to say that. I mean, this horrifying face, check it out. That haunted me, and probably thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of other kids who's seen this on TV and were like, oh, holy shit, this is horrible. So, yeah, he's much more of a demon, much more animalistic. In my headcanon, to explain this, my idea is that, and this is not in the book or in the film, but I just, like I said, it's my own headcanon. I think that the reason he's like that, and he doesn't speak in words at all either, is because, in my opinion, my headcanon, is that hundreds of years of being a vampire and living like that just transforms you physically and mentally into more of a demon, more of an animalistic demon. You get more and more powerful, but you get less and less human. And I think that's how I explain the look here. Yeah, as I said, great casting all the way around. You got David Soul as Ben Mears. Perfect. David Soul, hell of an actor. Really good role for him. Lance Kerwin as Mark. I remember, I've mentioned this in some videos before, but I remember Lance Kerwin as James at 16, James at 15, then James at 16 of the last season. He plays Mark brilliantly so. I think he's a little bigger and older than Mark is depicted in the book, in my view. But it works here. It works anyway. Yeah, I still loved it. Good change. That worked fine. James Mason is brilliant as Straker. Now, in the book, I thought of Straker, Barlow's sort of human henchman, as more of a big, more physically imposing thug. But James Mason just plays the hell out of this role. He is so awesome. Very charismatic, very suave, immaculate dresser with his suits and things, his tailored suits. And yeah, his way with words, he just sucks you right in. So yeah, James Mason, brilliant casting, and he was awesome in this. And yet, like I said, I mentioned before, Fred Willard is Larry Crockett. Awesome casting here. Perfect. They added some stuff at the beginning and some stuff at the end, which I won't go into here, that sort of almost acts as kind of a soft sequel a little bit to the plot of the book, which is not included in the book and is expanded here. I think it's really well done, and I'm okay with it. I guess Stephen King was okay with it. I'm not sure how much power he had at the time. He may not have had any say at all after he agreed to selling the rights for this. I don't know. But I thought it worked pretty good. Still no clear answer about what exactly Straker is. The book doesn't say, and the movie doesn't say. I think it's sort of hinted at that he might be some sort of ghoul, maybe, but that's not really right either, because I guess he's just a human, but he seems to have really abnormal strength levels for a human. So I don't know. It's never really said what he is. But I think it's cool. I mean, other than he's the vampire, the master vampire's familiar. But he's not a vampire himself. Totally can go out about his business during the day and, you know. So I guess that's cool. Now, one thing they did do in the book, or rather in the movie, man, the Marston house, who is like a main character in the book, and pretty much a main character in the movie too. The Marston house itself, that creepy old mansion, is such an entity in and of itself. And man, the set design inside that thing, it's just tremendously creepy. I mean, there's just black, I guess there's mold and cobwebs and just this muck and dirtiness. You're creeped out as soon as a character walks in on that set. You're just like, ugh. You're just afraid for him because it's so gross and it's so horrifying, without even anything happening, just walking through that set. Some spectacular set design there. It really is. It's something to see. It is really something to see. They made it horrible. They made that sense of impending doom that the character talks about having in the book is really brought to life here. It's fantastic. What everybody always thinks of when they think of Salem's Lot, I think they think of this makeup, this face, and they also think of that scene with the floating boys in front of the window as vampires are trying to get in. And man, it is a powerful sequence. It's done, I think, 2 or 3 times here in this movie. And every time, it's just horrifying. It really is. It's just, it still holds up to this day. 46 years later, I think it holds up just about as good as it did then. The music is a little overwrought at times, and I think it's a little cheesy by today's standards, because, I mean, sometimes the music is really super orchestrated, like something horrible's happening, and nothing's really happening on screen other than those crazy sets, which is something. My wife disagreed with me there. She thought the music just made it more scary. So I don't know. If you've watched it recently, let me know down in the comments what you think about the music. Was it too much? I don't know. I think overall I'd give this 8 out of 10. Great adaptation. They made some huge changes that worked. Like the biggest change probably being making Barlow a horrible demonic creature rather than a suave Dracula type. It worked here, and I think Stephen King, it might even be in the book I have in some of the remarks, mentioned that it worked for him because it was a change that we'd already had a whole lot of suave vampires on screen, so that to go polar opposite direction, made it very compelling, and I think he's right. And I'm paraphrasing. It's not exactly what he said. But yeah, so I think for me, it's 8 out of 10. It's not a perfect work, but it's damn close. It's really good. Well worth the $10 I paid for the less than $10, to get the Blu-ray. So if you're thinking about it, go ahead and get it. It's worth it. There was a terrible and largely unrelated theatrical sequel done in 1987. It was called A Return to Salem's Lot, which didn't feature any of the characters. I mean, I guess it couldn't. None of the actors, nobody came back. It's just, they had the rights to do it, so they did. They owned the rights to do that, so they wanted to jump on that bandwagon. Now, granted, I said it was terrible. I have not actually seen this. I want to, and I wanted to see it for this, but I could not track down a copy at any kind of reasonable cost, and knowing that this is probably a dog, I didn't want to invest in it to do it. But I will watch it eventually, and I'll let you know my thoughts on it. But yeah, it's a Salem's Lot sequel in name only, from what I understand. If you know about that one, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. And then in 2004, TNT Network made a new version. There was also a 2-part miniseries, and I think it's even the same running time. They mimicked the format of this one, version of Salem's Lot. And this one starred Rob Lowe. Now, the reviews on this are kind of mixed, but I think mostly positive. I really, really want to see this one. And I was going to try to watch it in time to talk about it in this video, but again, could not track down a reasonable copy, and it doesn't seem to be streaming anywhere that I can find. If it is, let me know down in the comments if you've managed to catch it streaming. I don't think it's available right now, and the DVDs and or Blu-rays are like $30 plus everywhere I've looked, and I want to see it, but man, it seems wrong for me to pay 3 times the cost for the one I just bought, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm being cheap, but I'll get to that eventually. And then, of course, there was a theatrical new movie-length version that came out last year, 2024. Not seen that yet either, but I'm going to. And when I see these other related projects and these newer versions, I will definitely make a video about that, let you know what I thought. Big fan of the Tobe Hooper version, and I'm now a big fan of the novel as well. If you've been checking out my shirt, I'll show you that. This is Sesame's Lot by Scott Juan Cristiano. Awesome artist. I'll link up his Instagram and maybe his store site where you can probably still get this. I love it. But Scott's a great guy, and I'll link him up in the description. But I hope you like taking a look at this, and let me know your thoughts on what you think about Salem's Lot, either version, the book or the movie. And let me know what you agree with me on and what you don't. Post it down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.